Channeling Eric's hour of enlightenment.
Oh my God. I almost forgot to hit record. I'm so confused because I use certain things for the lives and different YouTube channels, and I have to switch certain things off on restream.com. And it's just like, and it's like, oh my God, down to the
You're
wire.
doing so good.
Oh
You're
God.
doing so good.
Well, for an
You're
old
doing so
lady.
good.
Jesus.
Eric says you're doing awesome. Say hi,
Oh,
Mom.
thank
Love you.
you.
Love you.
I love you. And I love all of you guys out there, especially Michelle Gray. And
Aw,
her
love you
information
too.
is in the description box. So, what are we going to talk about now? Are you a medium? Do you wonder what to do or how to start helping people? I know that Erik loves helping up and coming mediums. But let's see what else he has to say. This is like a passion of his. But first, I want
Mm-hmm.
to ask Erik your thoughts on this one person. I won't mention that person's name, who kind of tricked me in doing the main service on her, acting like she already paid, gave me all the household information. I did it back in February. It worked beautifully. So she did a video testimonial. And now she wants to get a free service because she did the video testimonial on a service she did for free. So what do you think about that? Does that upset you, Erik? I mean,
Well, Eric says it's doesn't really match energetically.
mm-mm.
So he's just saying like mom, he goes, why you're even bringing up and talking about it is because you know it doesn't match energetically. It doesn't feel
Yeah,
right.
it's not fair.
So he's like, it's kind of like this one, he goes, kind of black and white here. It's kind
Yeah,
of black and white. He's like, it's got to have an energy match. So no,
rude.
it's not.
It's really rude. So I asked her to go ahead and come up with proof of payment or pay, but she didn't respond, and she did not pay anything.
Yeah.
And also there's other people. I've been on a tear here lately that have tried to put in all their family members and their neighbors and all that stuff, like 20 people in one household, like that like the main service. But that is so dangerous because we could only put in those who live there, because those people come from other houses with other property, other land. And if you treat them and not their property, their land, and their home structure itself, that if they are negative entities, there often are, they'll get pissed
Yeah.
and their life turns out to be a living hell. So
Yeah.
I've had people try to do that too.
Eric just adds, he's like, Mom, and he's saying this, he goes, guys, he goes, intention of what you're doing is your contract. So if you're not being honest, and he says, or if you're trying to throw something in, he says that the energy is following the intention that's set with the script that's coming through. So he says you're doing things not only that could open up things that don't need
Ooh,
to be for other people.
yeah.
However, he goes, you're also not giving the full benefit to yourself.
It's not fair because
So
I'm telling you, after expenses, etc., I'm lucky to clear $14 an hour. So it's just, it's not.
mhm,
It hurts my
mhm.
feelings, really. It does.
Yeah, yeah. And Eric's just saying, Mom, he's
Yeah.
very proud of you
Well, I'm proud of
for
you.
saying this because he says, Mom, he goes, I'm glad that you're saying this because right now, he goes, communication is number one.
Yeah,
And
because it's always
you saying
hard.
how you feel and talk about this is so important. Yes.
Setting boundaries is very
Mhm.
hard for me. I know, because I want to do everything for free. I want to help everybody, but
Yeah,
then I get upset, and
because
I'm
he
not
says
saying
that
that.
this is your energy, your time. He says it's something that you're giving, and he says, Mom, and you can't just give it away because
No,
he
they
says
want me
it's taken
to.
you a lot. It's
Not
taken you a
everybody.
lot to get
Yeah,
to this point too.
yeah. And of
Yeah.
course, it takes your time too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm looking for him to
Yeah.
think, well, if I cheat and try to get something for nothing, maybe
Mhm.
Erik and the divine team will haunt me. Woo-hoo-hoo. Archangel Metatron with a
Well, he says it
camera.
this way. He goes, when an intention
They
isn't
won't,
pure,
don't
it
worry.
changes the energy.
It
It
does.
changes the energy. So he says, just keep that in mind. He goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, if you're being dishonest in some way, he goes, it will, you bring that within something to you
Yep.
because everything is about alignment. So he says, if you're doing that, you really do it to yourself.
And that's a good lesson for everyone to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing, and I won't sit there and be so hogging of the show, but I've been really worried about Celine Dion. You know, she got that stiff person syndrome, and I just want to know, Erik, can we help her? I mean, it would probably take a couple of days to do scalar energy on her, so I'd have to wait until, opening in the cube, but or is it a contract that's not revocable? Is there any way I can help her? I mean, it's an autoimmune disease that is they think it's autoimmune. It's very complicated. I know the physiology. I know the pathophysiology of the whole thing, but
He's saying yes. He's saying yes. Yes.
okay.
I just asked him, is this something that could be healed? And he says yes. He says her awareness with that is important because he's just saying that with where she is energetically, she would have to have awareness with that.
Yeah.
To really bring that to.
I don't know how to even reach her or her people, whatever, but I mean, obviously I couldn't ask her for her address to work on her property because she would not do that. But the only thing I would require in exchange was I would not want it publicized. I do not. If we helped her, Erik, I would not want that out there at all. It would be just too much for me to handle. So it had to be like, yeah, Celine, I'll help you, but don't say anything to anybody. But so anyway, if anybody you guys know Celine, hook me up with her. I'll try
send it out in the waves right now.
Yeah, because I mean, it can't hurt, right? Maybe it won't help.
That's right.
I mean, we just got rid of so many cavities. It's crazy. No cavities anymore. Just erase. I mean, it's possible.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And she's so lovely. I was listening to her apologize to people for canceling the tour, and she just seems so humble and Anyway, without further ado, we will go on to the main star, Erik and Michelle Gray. Tell us about if people are looking to become a medium. What should they do? What direction should they take?
He says, Mom, we have so many mediums watching, mediums that are in many different stages. And he says, and that, he says, is purposeful because Erik's like, I love the mediums. I love it. He loves to help crack everybody open. And he says, he's saying it like all of his babies and like sending them out on the way. Like he's hugging everybody and then sending them out on their way and then bringing more in and hugging them and sending them out on their way. Yes.
You would never going to be a father, but maybe this is your way of becoming a father.
Well, that's how he's saying it because he's like, my kids, my family, like he says there's more coming and he's identifying so many children right now. So many children, especially our 11 to 18 right now is he's saying is a lot of opening happening. So he says, hey, if you have a teenager, he says, watch, or a preteen, yes, watch for those lessons coming through, watch for experiences, things that they might be having hardships with are really he says, like giving big leaps and bounds to opening up. So we're going to find that our kids are not taking the length of time to open up that maybe some adults that have opened up a while, it took a while to open up because he says the energy is different. It's faster and because they're built different. So it's quite exciting, he says. And he says, now, how many of you are listening right now and say, I wonder if Erik's talking to me? He says, yes, I'm talking to you. Yes. He goes, yes, you are a medium. So he says, it does not matter if you think, well, I wasn't born a medium. I don't remember this and I don't remember that. And I didn't have those experiences. He goes, so let's do number one. It doesn't matter if you were born a medium or you awaken to the mediumship journey, or you get that feeling or things start to happen. He says, your connection to spirit, everybody has it. And he says, and
are you saying that I thought maybe that everybody's born a medium, but some develop their skills and some don't?
That's right.
Does,
And
doesn't
he says,
everybody have the innate ability to be a
yes.
channel?
Yes, and he says that those were the he says we said it maybe a little different way, but yes, he says, but not all are going to, yes, we all have the ability to connect to spirit. If we desire to take that connection and grow it, whether we awaken to that desire or whether that is there from birth, is what he's talking about. But all human beings have the ability to connect with spirit. He says, why? Because we are spirit.
Oh,
Because there's no disconnection.
yeah.
And he says the thing is we've developed this idea of the afterlife being way somewhere else, that we have to swim through. He says, like, we're swimming through all these connections just so that we can hear these muffled sounds. And he goes, let's take all that off the table right now. He goes, here's the thing, you have that connection that is here. And he says, and as soon as you remove that idea that it's somewhere else and realize that it's right here, he goes, because everything is really combined together. So consciousness, leaving the physical body, heaven is right here.
Yeah.
He goes, it's all stacked. So you're not separate. They're not way somewhere else. He says, but the thing is you want to use the ability of connecting through your own spirit, your higher self. So step into your higher energy, and you do that with intent.
Yeah.
You do it with intent. So he goes, whether you have always known that there's something to you, or whatever that journey is, or whether you have had an awakening from one thing or another, he says, you're a medium. If you have the desire to connect, you're a medium. And he goes, and just like the piano, some people play it really well, and some people need a little more work. Some people need a little more practice to hone it in. So he says, listening right now, if you're questioning it, yes, you are. Yes, you are a medium.
Well, that's pretty exciting. And we need some excitement in the world today. So this whole thing about the 11 to 18-year-old and, people listening. Now, on Atlantis Scalar, we have the mini mediumship bundle, which is a whole bunch of stuff: pineal gland decalcification and repair and rejuvenation and stem cells and a bunch of stuff. And chakra alignment and balancing and tuning and spinning in the right direction, the right size, and the crown chakra maximum width, ideal and maximum width, and the third eye, and then the full mediumship bundle adds on the activation of spiritual DNA, and also the awakening of the Kundalini at a rate that is tolerable, because that can So, but I recommend that people do that, and maybe I'm saying it wrong, that only if they want to do this as a profession. I mean, why spend the money if you're not going to be a professional medium? Am I wrong to say that?
Well, Erik says the thing is that, if you're wanting to be a professional medium, he says you may be wanting that boost because you're working. He says those that are doing this with a goal in mind, and he says, and that's purposeful, somebody will have that in their energy to do. So if they're activating that choice, then having the mediumship bundle is going to be very helpful because they're actively working. So it's going to expand that experience for them.
And
if somebody is positive.
Not, the results have been great.
Yes. And he says that those that have gone to have it, like when they do it, he goes, you're ready, you're primed, because it won't come into your awareness until you're ready. So you won't even find the service until you're ready. So what he's also saying is that some people that want to communicate with spirit for themselves, want to enhance that for themselves. He goes, because there's a lot of people that are like, well, I don't really want to do it for a business, but I want to be able to communicate more with my family in spirit.
Well, that makes sense. I never thought about that. Why didn't I think about that?
So Erik says, so it's not that it's not beneficial. He goes, because it's going to benefit anyone that is ready for it, that is drawn to it, that wants to communicate. And he says, because all of those things, Mom, with the chakras and the connection, all of those things are so positive and so good. and so good for one's life. So
And we
he
do the
says it's
minor
really a
chakras too,
win-win.
not just the
Yeah.
major chakras. But okay, so I want to ask you a question because I don't know how this works. Being a psychic, okay, there's psychic mediums and mediums, psychic mediums, psychics, pure psychics. What is that? I mean, do they let like go their thought travels through wormholes into the future? I mean, how does it work? What is a psychic and how do they do their thing?
Well, he said that psychic energy is actually the claircognizance, the knowing
Oh,
energy. He says that's where it comes from.
Mhm.
So it's actually built in he's going into the solar plexus and sacral area,
Mhm.
into that area. So connected to the gut feeling. And he says what's being tapped into is somebody who is more open psychically. They often have clairvoyance, and they often have their claircognizance amped up. And so they may not connect with the clairvoyance at first, but when he says clairvoyance, he says, because it's the knowing and the seeing behind things, seeing the full picture, seeing further into the future. So he says it's an ability to be able to energetically either sense, visualize, or um, uh, what's that word, Eric? No, he's showing me energy lines. I want to say dissolve, to pull apart, to break it down. He says that a person that is psychic, what they're actually looking at is they're looking at the variations of quantum probabilities
Oh,
that are have already been pushed into our energy field. So they're able to see into those quantum probabilities. But he's saying how one sees depends on which one of their clairs is most developed to get that information. And he said not all mediums have that developed in strength. It
I mean, they
depends
have
on,
it, but maybe not as developed. It's like I think
right.
everybody has some psychic ability. How
Yes,
people have said,
yes,
I feel like my mom's gonna call.
yes,
That
yes.
kind of thing.
Yes. And
Or,
so that he says some of that is, so we have a little bit of a telepathic connection going on there.
oh,
He says everybody actually does have clear cognizance to them to a degree, because everybody has gut feeling.
so that's the
Everybody
dummy
has
one.
knowing.
Of all the clairs, that's the dummy. That's the remedial level.
That's yeah.
That's what I have.
But what
But
he
it's
says
better than
though,
nothing.
but he says, here's the thing, Mom. A
What?
lot of people dim that or down that and go, I want to learn clairvoyance. I want to be clairaudient, because they take the value of those things and put it over
Mhm.
that main one.
Yeah.
And he says, and don't do that. He says, work with what you have. And that's what he's saying. Where do I start? Where do I start?
Yeah.
Well, identify what's going on. Work with what you have. So he says, so if that claircognizance, that gut feeling, all right, he goes, so practice being mindful each day of where you're feeling that. And can you trust that? Can you practice using that as you question things? He says it's all about allowing yourself to create communication within the self to start to identify feelings. He's also saying to like start with mediumship, like, where am I? He goes, well, be the medium, accept it. Don't say, I am trying to be a medium.
Oh.
I am going to be a medium. He goes, no, you already are
No,
a
you're a
medium.
large or extra large at least.
I know, that's my joke all the time.
Wow.
I'm not a medium, I'm a large, I'm an extra large. But no, he says, like, so what are you doing in your day? What habits are you creating for yourself that a medium would do? So he says, do you have practices in place? So again, identify how you feel you communicate now. And don't worry about, well, yeah, but is that right? Is that actually happening? He goes, because this is your steps of trust. It's very important that you trust. So if you know you have a good gut feeling, He goes, then use that gut feeling as your main way to communicate and work at that, enhance that, pull cards. What do these cards mean to me? What's your gut feeling? He goes, don't read the book. Not that you can't, but don't rely on that because your gut feeling is going to tell you what's applicable for you. Now, he's saying something else too. Many people that have their claircognizance amped up have clairvoyance, and they might be discounting their clairvoyance. So he says you want to pay attention to like images that pop up that complement these feelings. Because he says the idea is and he says, and like, let's debunk this a little, because a lot of times we view other mediums, whether it be on TV or on YouTube, such as this, and a person who is not completely understanding how they are viewing spirit will discount their experience in the present moment, seeing somebody else and saying, yeah, but I don't do that. That's full conversation. And that's that. And he says that is the worst thing you could do for your journey. He says, don't compare yourself to anybody else. And he says, Mom, he goes, you know why we have so many different mediums that we work with together? He goes, because there is something for everyone, that somebody that can connect to and say, hey, that's me. I do it like that. Or, hey, I recognize that, or that person, I like how they do this. And he goes, because they're all bringing through the flavor of Erik. They're all bringing through me. He says, moi, moi. He's saying some French.
Yeah, right.
They all bring through me. But he goes, but they all have their way of doing it. And he goes, and that is so important, because he says, you're a medium. You're not a box. You're not a label. We use the word medium so we can understand you are standing in between. You're a communicator. You are assisting in conversation. He goes, and what you're really doing, he goes, you are learning your own language.
Yeah.
You're truly learning your own language with spirit. So you're picking up on what's here right now. Let's keep communicating with what I know I have right now. And he goes, and that might lead you to taking a couple classes, or that might lead you to reading a book over here. But he goes, allow yourself to collect information and study. And when I first met Erik was with me every single day. And the first thing he had me do, and my communication first came from him through a medium. And it was so strange, because she wasn't on channeling Erik, but actually she was on channeling Erik when we had all the different mediums, like all the vetted mediums. And I spoke to her, and she validated everything that was happening to me. So I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I know for sure this is Erik. Okay, I know it's Erik. And Erik said that was important, because that solidified that key for me. So I knew what I was being told was legit. And I'm like, okay, I got it. So he started out with me with using cards every morning, oracle cards. And it got to the point where I would see the cards in my head before they would flip over. So he kept working. The second thing he had me do is to journal each day. And so he said, you don't have to write anything long and expansive. He goes, journal. What did you see in your dream? What did you feel? When you did your meditation today, what popped up? He goes, make notes. And that has been so helpful for me, because I've got books and books of all of these notes that I was able to go back and connect so many things. And he told me I'd be able to do that. So he says, Michelle, how'd you hear me? How did you hear me in the beginning? And I heard him through my own voice. Yeah. I heard him once in the very beginning with a more audible voice, and I knew it had his tone to it. But he said that in the beginning, I had never actually heard his voice. And he said that it did not happen, me hearing anything, until I had heard his voice on video.
Yeah.
And then I was able to start hearing it.
Yeah. And Erik has a very particular voice. And he has a very particular energy. So he's perfect for helping people learn how to channel, because here's his voice in case you haven't heard people.
Hey, call, but if you leave a message, I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
That's his, but there's a lot. If you go to the YouTube channel, there's a lot of things where when he was alive, where he talks and stuff. So that helps. But you know, being a psychic, it's interesting. I'm wondering what the practical uses are. I remember many years ago. I mean, I think I only had a couple of kids. My parents were horrible, so they got so upset because they wanted to sell me their medical practice. I really didn't want it, but I wanted to help them out because I hated the practice of medicine. So I bought it for a lot of money. Well, they said we'll give you a loan, but then they said, but you can't buy a house or anything else since we're giving you a loan for a cheap interest rate. It wouldn't be fair for you to buy a house. So I said, okay. So I went to the bank and said, okay, how much do I owe them today? And so they gave me the loan. I paid them off with a bottle of Dom Perignon, and they slammed the door in my face, and they never talked to me for a couple of decades. But anyway, so my husband and I were at this little Mexican restaurant in our neck of the woods. We were living on the other side of the tracks back then. And I got this horrible feeling about my parents. They were going to come in. They were going to come in. But I said, this is ridiculous because they live on the other side of town. And there is the exact same restaurant, the same chain right there. They would not come here, like 20 miles away. But yet they did come in. That freaks me out.
Yeah, that was a psychic imprint. So that was foretelling.
Wow. So what practical uses? Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you something that happened to me just on Thursday, and it was a little scary. And these were some of the things that made me push away my abilities, because I would often get premonitions, particularly when people would pass, and I still get it. I will have somebody go through my mind that we know, our family, and then find out several days later that they passed.
Yeah.
So, because those things happen, I would push it away, and I was scared because I didn't want to be burdened with knowing things like that. Well, of course, fast forward, and now I welcome it with open arms all the time. But still, every once in a while, I get these feelings of like, is this fear, especially with my children? Is this fear of something happening to my children?
Yeah.
Is it my fear, or is it something else? And many times I've sat with Erik and worked through it and had him show me where the fear comes from, and then I'm able to discern it easier. So on Thursday, my daughter Shelby turned 18 years old, and I've told you this before, she's recently, like her father, has taken up motorcycle riding.
Oh God.
And she is like, because she didn't want any of us to tell her what to do, she saved her own money. She bought her sport bike. She insured her sport bike. She works in a sport bike shop. Like, okay, like this girl, nobody's stopping her. Well, we go out for dinner on Thursday night, and after dinner, this girl did not put her jacket on, and I begged her to put her jacket on, her protective gear. She didn't put it on.
It's so hard when they're 18,
Yes. And I'm like,
they know better.
begging her. I couldn't even watch her drive. I've been behind her many times while she's been on the bike. I couldn't look. I felt sick. And I saw in my head, when I saw her go down the road, I saw her slide. And my husband said, Michelle, you're just worried. You're just this, you're that. Okay. And I thought, I am not going to entertain that. We'll just keep going. 5 minutes down the road, 5 minutes, we got a call. She had an accident.
Oh my God. Is she okay?
That was like a near-death experience for her and for me.
Wait, did she sustain serious injuries?
She has really bad, her clothes ripped right off of her. The fact that she is in the shape she's in right now is a miracle. And Erik said she was saved.
Of course she was. You and your family are protected by the divine. Oh my God, that's a mother's nightmare. So is she going to get back on the bike?
She did today.
Oh, jeez.
She like I said, she earned her own money and she replaced all the parts. But what I will say to you is that kid is different. That experience changed her, and she says, Mom, I will never ride that bike again without gear.
Yeah, of course not. I mean, I in the ER, I have picked road rash out of so many people, and
Oh, it was bad. The road, she
thank
ripped
God
all the way
she
down the
did so.
side.
Eric,
And we
please
did a
watch
lot of
out.
healing work this weekend, but I asked him, I said, you ride with her, Erik.
Yeah, please. Oh, I had a similar experience. I only had Michelle and Christina. Michelle was like 3, maybe. Christina was like 5, 6, and we were gonna go to Cozumel, I think it was. But I get this horrible feeling that something on that trip was gonna happen. And I thought it's the plane's gonna crash and we'll all be eaten by sharks. I just had my mind made up. And I didn't really know anything about, but I even went to some palm reader on Westheimer here in Houston to see. But it was kind of a joke. But I was obsessed with it. I was so scared. So I decided to change the trip to Cancun instead. So I did. And then my husband, I was pregnant, of course, I was already pregnant. My husband was gonna go scuba diving, and so they didn't come back with a boat for so long. I was kind of concerned. So I said, Christina and Michelle, sit at this park bench. I'm gonna go like just 100 feet away, right?
Yeah.
To ask the boat that came in, where's the so-and-so boat with my husband on it? So they said, well, we don't know. And I turned back and no Michelle. There was only Christina sitting on the bench, watchful sister. But anyway, so then I looked and there was Michelle face down in the water. She had knocked herself out on a piece of coral or something. And I had to resuscitate her. I was flying with my pregnant ass body, like flying horizontally. But that was probably it. It didn't end up in tragedy.
Yeah.
Of course, when we went to the airport to go home, she was going to everybody and saying, hi, I drowned and my mommy saved me. Hi, you're not a stranger, are you? Because I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. Well, here's what happened. It's funny. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I
So-
mean, but, I think that, we all need to listen to, because we have this telepathic, claircognizant, psychic ability. That is one reason why we should always listen to our heart. And your daughter
that's
will
right.
hopefully learn that too. Listen to your
Yes.
heart. People get these feeling of something, and then all of a sudden they're a victim of a serial killer. Like I was almost killed by a serial killer, but I
Yeah.
felt like
Yeah.
something was going to happen. I felt
Yeah.
something weird. So y'all listen, be aware. Don't dismiss any of your feelings.
And that's why Erik's like awareness, like not fear, awareness.
That's good.
Awareness. And that is what will help us. And that's what he's taught me. And I'm very grateful that, like, yes, I was very shocking and scary, but I'm very grateful that I was able to stand with her and walk through this with her without being a mess myself.
Oh my God, you're strong, Mama.
You know,
You're so strong. So, okay,
don't
what
know.
about for those of us who grieve, being able to channel our babies or any of our loved ones? Would working on our skills to become a medium, not professionally, would that be very healing? I mean, wouldn't that help?
Yes. Erik says it can be it's a yes, he says it's a healing journey, and there are many and that's right. Erik's just like Michelle. Like there's a lot of people that come to me that just want to learn to channel so they can have more communication with their loved ones. And Erik says that's a great thing. He goes, it's a journey, it's a process, but it ends up being, he says, most times much bigger than we would have imagined, meaning that we're able to share that healing with other people. Whether that is, he goes, you don't have to do it professionally. He goes, professionally, that's a career. That's a job that we're doing with these abilities, but these abilities are natural and they're healing and they help and they end up being shared with other people that you're connected to, because what you do within yourself starts to triple and just keeps going and going and going and sharing with other people to spark them on their journeys.
The thing is, when you grieve, I find it very difficult to channel because
Yes.
because we're on the visible range, in the visible range of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Yes.
On either
Yes.
side, not visible, not even, you can't even tap into it.
That's
But
right.
when we are grieving, our vibrational energy goes so low. That's why we say, I feel depressed, I feel low.
Yes.
And we're so far down. And here's our babies, our loved ones, vibrating at a much higher frequency. How hard is that for them to get down to you? So for grievers, isn't it much more difficult?
Yes. Yes. He says, yes, mom, because he says often, as much as consciously, he says it's wanted so bad
Yeah.
on every level. He goes, and so consciously it's there, but he says it's subconscious, it's deeper than that, and so there has to be a healing process, but it also happens that way to give that person the opportunity to honor the healing, for it to be about their feelings, for them to be able to sit with it. And he goes, as you know, mom, not an easy process, but he says if you can go to someone else to help them walk through it with you, so you go to a medium, go to a spiritual counselor, he says, and have them hold your hand through it. Because what will happen is they will hold your hand and then pass it off to your loved one, and off you will go. He says, allow it to be a process to help you get to that point, because it will happen. He says, your connection, he goes, Mom, your connection with me is the strongest out of anyone in the world.
Oh.
The strongest. He says that love, that bond, that comes from the people connected. Yes, we're all connected, but he says the magic is our hearts connected. So he says, so use a medium to be able to strengthen that connection for you.
Yeah.
And so that you can carry on a new relationship with us in spirit.
I think that's one reason why, in my experience, mothers are the last to get some sort of sign from that. And Lori, I know you're listening. Because I'm not saying this is true all the time, because fathers, of course, they're the silent grievers. But yeah, it's like, it's really difficult for a mother to get out of that grief. And grief is the price we pay for love, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah, and yes, and Erik says, now, just as a message too, he says, when you're in grief, keep in mind that we're going to give you signs through other avenues. And he says, whether that be, birds, nature, he says coins, those type of things, we're going to go to the most open vibrations in your reality to show you something. So it's not that we're not there. It's
Right.
not that we're not surrounding you. It's not that we're not showing you the signs, but it can be hard to notice it with the heaviness. So he says, even if you can take just a moment in your grief and just allow yourself to be present and just breathe, he goes, that will help change that vibration even momentarily. And let that be your practice. Let that take those moments, like linking them, he's showing me, from one to the next to help build that momentum and raise the vibration through grief.
All right. So even if you're not grieving, does raising your vibration help you become a better channel? And if so,
Yes.
what are some great ways of raising your vibration? Listening to your favorite Kathleen Madigan is my favorite, and she's so great. But
Yes.
listening to your favorite comedian, music, dancing.
Music is a great one.
Yeah.
Music is a great one. Meditation, whether it's walking, sitting meditation, walking outside, breathing. He says breathing is a great
Breath work.
one.
Yeah.
Breath work. Those are easy things that you can do to help get you set. But he says intention. So the thoughts, because thoughts have vibration. So when you're working on yourself and you're working through this path, he goes, it's the inner work inside of you. And he says acceptance. So that word means a lot of things within yourself. But he says that big word of acceptance, I accept myself for who I am. He goes, your vibration will go whoop, and it will keep on raising. So he says, you've got the things that you can do before, say, you connect, before you sit down, to kind of raise that vibration. But he goes, but you've also got the day-to-day things. What are the thoughts in my mind? What am I feeling right now? All those things are what raises that momentum, so that when you do sit, and I know this, Erik said this to me, you don't have to do this big thing before you sit down, but he says, Michelle, create something that you believe in, so that when you sit down, you're connected. And this, in the beginning, he said this to me. So what I did was, I had an elevator, and so I would ride on the elevator up my chakras to the top, and when I would get to the top, I would step off the elevator, and it was always white and cloudy, and Erik was waiting there for me.
Oh, wow.
And that's where we would start and do our work. And that motion was me rising into my higher self.
Oh, wow.
Right. So he says, so, and that another little piece he told me too, because in the beginning I was like, well, what about some of these dark spirits? What about what if I start getting into any of that?
Oh, yeah.
And he says, you're protected. Ride the tube into the higher self. You're protected. It's going through the higher self. He goes, nothing's going to happen. You're going to be okay. So I've always done that. But now I literally, for everything, I press a button. I hit my red button. Let's go, Erik. Let's go.
Oh, I wish it was that easy, but it takes time. And, a lot of people try to channel, and I'm going to ask about ways to start practicing in a minute. But and they hear their own voice answering, and so they dismiss it. But it seems like what's being said is not something that would really come from you. So you have to have faith, right? That, hey, it may be in your own voice in your head, but I'm telling you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because the difference is with your own voice. So there's two ways that you can hear your own voice with, and it is clairaudience. So clairaudience is not necessarily hearing audibly. Spirit doesn't have a voice, right? So it's a projection, and we have meridians out here. So we have an inner ear, and something that Erik did with me that I teach in my classes is when to understand where you hear spirit with your own voice. You want to say Erik's name. So say Erik in your own voice, and where do you hear it? Where do you hear it in your head? Some people say they hear it in their body. So they're picking up on it when
I hear it in my right ear, right behind my right ear, I think.
Yes, and that's exactly where it comes in. So you'll notice now with that identification, you'll notice that when you are talking to spirit, when you are bringing in information or something comes in, it's going to come more from back here, more from the back of your head, like that. And it sounds like your voice talking. Yeah. So when Erik says something that he really wants to impress, he'll make it come through, and it's almost got like his tone to it, even though it kind of sounds like my voice still, but he'll say it really loud. Yeah. And it'll come right through, like really strong. And then at other times, it'll be more like, because he says two ways, it'll be more like thought form, just like downloaded thought, which might take a second to kind of spill it out the right way that he's giving it to you. Because he says, as you get going with all these things, see, the other abilities start to work with them. That's why you want to work on your main one. Yeah. Because once you've got that nice and solid, you're going to notice as you're solidifying that, other things are going to come in. Mm-hmm. And he says, clairaudience is also the high-pitched tones, the ringing, all of those things is part of it. And he says there's a lot of clairaudient listeners right now. Another thing he says to pay attention to clairaudience is when you're talking to other people, so other human beings, and certain words stand out. So spirit will use other people's words to stand out to you. Right. So pay attention when you hear these repeating words, because the more you focus on those things, the stronger that will become.
Can you give an example?
So let's say, you and I are here having a conversation, and Erik was trying to say something to me about Shelby's motorcycle. Okay, so you started talking, you're talking about Ruin, you're talking about his motorcycle, and you kept saying motorcycle. So I might hear your words and then hear motorcycle. and then it kept coming back up, so I would notice it. So he says it's like if it's a name or a word, he says your attention is going to hear it say more than somebody else that wasn't clairaudient. They might not pick up on certain words. And he says there's also speaking words, and he's saying also being shown words. So like again, Shelby
License
had
plate
this
signs. I
weekend.
know. There's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
like
Yeah.
being drawn to
Or in the
them and
music,
everything.
radio. Yeah.
Yes, yes, all of that.
So, Shelby might want to talk to my husband about, he feels very strongly that being on the track is a lot safer than being on the road. I mean,
Yes.
he has a suit that has
Yes.
a sensor where it's an airbag. It puffs up anytime there's, a potential of a crash. He's totally protected. And, you're all going the same direction, right? So, there
Right.
are like beginner things like Ride Smart. We have something called Ride Smart, and
Mhm.
they have volunteers that help teach young people and old people. I told my husband, get
Well,
a sponsorship with Viagra or Geritol. Geez, we can make some money on pay for your bike. But no, but yeah, but he'd be, I'm sure, happy to talk to her if she was ever interested in doing something like that.
She does want to do track. She does want to
Yeah,
do
it's
track.
so much
My
safer.
husband does too.
It
Yeah.
is so much safer.
I just don't
The only time
can
that
get them to
my
stop
husband
doing the
had
road.
I know, serious accident was when he was in his Montclair, his favorite jacket, so expensive, not worth the money. And he was like testing out the new shocks, and he had no helmet on. He didn't have his thing on, but he was in the pit, and he boom, and
Yeah.
water, and bam, slammed down, cracked his skull. Was so horrible for so long. He was so mean. It
I
was like
remember that.
a brain injury kind of meanness, but yeah. My favorite part was when he came home from the hospital. We were guiding him he didn't want to be touched, guiding him to the sofa. And it was so funny. He had that precious Montclair jacket on, and there's goose feathers flying out the back. It's like a trail of goose feathers. Ugh. But so, you just have to be smart. Anyway, that's not the topic. All right. So
Yeah.
you teach mediumship, right?
I do. Yes. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I started teaching that a few years ago. And I teach manifestation and those things too.
That's so
like with
awesome.
vibration. It's a lot of
Check
fun.
out our site, thehealing-art.com, guys, if you guys want to develop your skills. So, Erik, last thing, is there any good way to start practicing? Like some people think, well, automatic writing might be a good deal, or well, I mean, tell us some.
Yeah, he actually says automatic writing, and he says just flowing in conversation with spirit, which he goes, put a question down. So something you would like to have some information on. And he goes, it doesn't have to be big and complicated. It could be, what is the meaning of, why this happened with so and so. And he says, and don't sit there and think about, oh, that doesn't sound good, or that doesn't make sense. He says, just string words together. And who cares if they don't connect? Who cares? He goes, get in the habit of flowing freely. Get in the habit of allowing whatever comes to go on the paper. And if it makes no sense, he says, who cares? Be like, awesome. That makes no sense. I'm going to do it again. And he goes, and allow that to be a practice, because what will happen is you'll start to trigger the energy to open up a little bit more and a little bit more to where you're starting to get some flow, and you'll start to notice patterns. And he says, and the important thing is too, is he says, giving yourself some kind of opportunity to actually get to know your guides. And he goes, and as we say that, the most practical thing you can do is sit in the energy with your guides.
Yeah.
Just get comfortable of recognizing what they feel like. And he says, and it's practice, Mom. He says it is the doing it over and over each day and committing to it, because it's the commitment and the discipline to it that will give you the results.
But
to
don't
keep
judge
going.
yourself.
And don't judge yourself.
And
He goes, no way.
expectations. No,
Mhm.
expectations is such a huge obstacle.
And he
You
goes,
know,
and
yeah.
have fun, guys. He goes, the biggest thing ever, have fun.
Mm.
He goes, let it feel good. Don't put pressure on yourself.
Yeah,
Have fun with it.
Last question, and then I'd love to take callers. Erik, should they try to channel you first before their loved ones, or does it matter?
He goes, it doesn't really matter, but here's the thing. He goes, if you feel drawn to, you want it to be your loved one, well, there's your answer. Go ahead and do it. But
That makes
he
sense.
goes, I invite you to invite me in, because Erik has a very, like we were saying before, he has a special way of working with us. This is part of his purpose. He's very good at it, and he's made for this.
Yeah.
He's made to do this with us. So by inviting him in, now, I mean, he can be a tough teacher. He will kind of get you to step out and kind of say, don't be scared, and push you. But it's so loving, and from the most loving place in the world. And he truly is the best friend in spirit you could ever have. Truly, truly.
Oh, he was wonderful while I was here too.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah. Not without flaws as a human, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember him ever saying anything. He might get angry with a person, but I don't remember him ever saying anything like insulting a person. It's the strangest thing. My mother-in-law was the same way. Never said anything bad about anybody, but they would get angry with it. Okay. All right. Okay. We'll go ahead and start taking calls.
Okay.
Okay. Here's somebody from the 412 area code. Hi there.
Hi, this is Lori from Presto.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Elisa. I just wanted to say real quick that how much I appreciate your kindness, your intelligence, and I hope I'm never one of the people that hurt your feelings, because
Oh,
we
you would never
grieving
do that.
mothers are greedy.
Yeah.
We're greedy for information, and I know that. And Michelle, you're my favorite on here, and I hate to hear your mother's anguish. I know that anguish.
You do.
And,
You do, Lori. You do.
I do.
Yeah.
And for Erik, I appreciate you. You started all this that has helped so many people. And I have a question for Erik, that I was told this is my last lifetime on Earth, and I forgot to ask, where do I go? Where do I go next?
You're gonna hang with Erik.
Is that it?
And Jacob.
So I stay in the spirit world. Okay, that's beautiful. So no other planet.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I'm not going to answer that. You have free will on either side of the veil. Okay. I mean, and the fact that
Okay.
there's no time, that everything is happening at once, now, past, future, makes it a very complicated answer. But Erik,
Okay.
you're the expert.
Well, Erik goes, good job channeling, Mom, because that's pretty much what he's saying. The only thing that he adds to that is really that, expanding rather, free will. So what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Because here's the thing, you don't have to come back. You've done what you need to do in this lifetime. So that's accurate information, but what will it be? Well, that's going to be up to you when you get there.
You and Jacob might want to work together on that side,
Well, and I'm going to be greedy again. Is there a quick message from my beloved Jacob, who I miss so much? And
he says, of course, I love you, Mom. And he says that he's helping giving you some insight into things. So what he's showing me is a book, and he says, like, we're getting into things right now. So there must be some information or more like unfolding of yourself. Does that make sense? Like more insight into your life, into your path.
Yes, he has told me to read more, and I might ask Elisa off, when this is over, for suggestions. I've been reading a lot of books, I'm preparing for what he told me I need to do. And, you know, if you can just tell him I love him, we miss him so much here. And
He knows. Here's
He knows, he
I
hears you.
know.
He's right with you. He is literally got his arms around your neck right now.
You
as
know,
far as book suggestions, I don't have time to read anymore, so I might not be the best person to ask. Anyway, okay, thank you, Lori. Remember, us moms stick together,
thank you,
right?
Lily.
Yes.
I love
Thanks, Lori. Love
We
you.
love you too, Lori. Oh gosh, I know the pain so well. All right, so 215 area code. Hey there, how you doing?
Hi. Hey, this is Jessica from Pennsylvania.
Hey, Jessica.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. So I spoke to you like a while ago. I'm still like living in temporary housing situations.
Yeah.
They've gotten much better. I'm still figuring out where I want to live in the state. So I'm currently living on this farm that's amazing. It has like cows and sheep and horses.
Oh, that's my place, man.
And,
Love it.
and I want to do my healing work here. And I made an offer to the guy who owns the place with his wife, to like rent out the pasture at times to do like my events and sessions.
Oh,
And, he said that he didn't really want, like, they don't think that they want to, do that, you know, have more traffic on the farm. And,
yeah.
I'm feeling like a little bit, I'm just feeling like I keep getting like clarity as far as like, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'll work here and I can build my business and then I'll find a house right around here. But now it seems, I don't know if they're going to change their mind or, like,
So what,
where
Eric?
do you see me
Yeah.
landing around here? And then like, I want to make sure that I have a market for my business also. They're very viable-y, in these places. So I don't know if that's, you know, a good, if there's a market for even if I start doing this work here. So your thoughts?
Okay. So the first thing that Eric is showing me, because did you get any like visuals or something when you had some ideas about doing your healing work in this location? Because Eric says that you have been getting
Actually, like I've been dreaming about this location for close to 2 years, even before I moved to Pennsylvania. So
Wow.
I'm here now.
Yes, because he is circling that area. Now, I can't say for sure if it's actually going to be the farm that you're on, but it is farmland that he's showing me. He says, he's giving me the, I don't know who this is, if it's some kind of a speaker. It's like, I tried something 500 times and 501 times it worked. And so there is something about there being another opportunity. So he says, make decisions in your mind based on, like, set things up like you're doing. Take the info, set things up, because there is something that's going to come together, and I don't see you going too far out of the area. Although he says at one time that may have been what you were going to do, but he says right now you actually are staying in this area, and he says because it's say a Bible area, he goes, that makes no difference, because he says you're here making change.
Awesome.
Making change. Yeah.
And Bible people need help too.
That's
All
right.
Thanks, Jessica. Keep us posted.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, gave me chills. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So I guess we will end the show. You guys, again, check out Michelle. If you really want to channel your loved ones, or if you want to become a professional medium, she can help you. And of course, along with her big buddy and pesky little brother, Erik. So check her out at thehealing-art.com. And y'all, this is going to be a YouTube. So share it.
10 seconds.
And hit the like button. And hit the notification button and subscribe. I think I got them all.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Love you all. Bye.
Love you. Eric says, love you, Mom.
Love you.
Love
Mom.
you.
Bye.
Night.